Sigma Beauty has just launched a brand new all neutral eyeshadow palette that I really feel like is going to become a staple in my collection. So this is the Spectrum palette and it is available now on Sigma's website. If you decide you want to pick up this palette or anything else from Sigma, you can use my code ANGELABRIGHT to save. But how beautiful and perfect is this palette for every day? So we have 15 matte shades in this palette with so many beautiful neutral shades of nudes and browns. And then we have 5 kind of shimmery metallic shades to pair with the matte shades in this palette. I'm really excited about this palette, and today I just wanted to play with this palette today, so I created this gorgeous kind of bronzy rose gold look, and I love how my eye look turned out today. I'm just so into these bronzy tones right now as we're headed into summer. So let's zoom in and do a close-up eyeshadow tutorial with the new Spectrum palette. So when looking at this palette, if you're someone that kind of struggles to figure out which shades work best together with this palette, I think it's best to look at it in columns, because each column really goes perfectly together with your 3 matte shades and then your 1 shimmer shade. So this column will give you kind of more of like a really soft pinky toned neutral look, and then even looking at this last column, this will give you a really nice kind of smoky look. For my look today, I kind of want to do something in the middle, so I think I'm going to focus on this center column right here. I already have my eyes primed and ready for shadow, and for that I used my favorite eyeshadow primer, which is the Rare Beauty one, and then I set that with the translucent powder. So I'm going to start with my fluffy crease brush. This is a Sigma E35 in the shade Beach Grass. I do want to point out that there is quite a bit of kick up when I'm picking up this matte shadow, so just make sure you tap off your brush with these matte shadows. I like to keep this like silicone cup on my desk that is full of powder eyeshadow. Honestly, I should really dump this out, but I keep that cup on my desk so I don't get powder all over my white makeup desk, you know? Anyways, taking that Beach Grass shade, and I'm gonna run this throughout my entire crease, kind of as my transition shade. So I actually got to see this palette in person when I was at Sigma's headquarters earlier this year in January, and you will find out pretty soon as to why I was at Sigma's headquarters in January. But I'm actually really excited to see Sigma coming out with a palette like this, because I think this is a palette that could be a staple in so many people's collections. And I know for myself, especially over the last 2 years, my eyeshadow style has definitely become a lot more neutral. Like, I don't really wear color like I used to. So having a palette like this that just has so many neutral, wearable brown shades in it, I think is a fantastic idea from Sigma. Even though this shade did have quite a bit of a kick up when I picked it up on my brush, I feel like shadows that do that actually blend out really, really nicely. So I'm really liking how this shade is looking in my crease, and I'm pretty much applying it all over from the outer crease out here all the way in towards the inner crease. And I'm kind of doing a mixture of back and forth motions and even little circular motions. Now I'm gonna go 1 shade down, and I'm gonna pick up Homemade on the same brush, and I'm kind of gonna do the same thing with this shade. Again, I'm just placing it in my crease, and this one's gonna start to add some depth to the look. So I'll place that first kind of lighter transition shade all over my crease, and then this one I'm gonna be a little bit more precise with it. I'm not gonna blend it as high. I'm gonna keep it a little more concentrated just right in this crease area. And it looks like this shade is a bit less powdery when I'm picking it up on my brush. There's very minimal kickback in my palette right now. I'm super happy with how this blend is looking so far, and these 2 shades go perfectly together. Now I'm going to switch to a Sigma E27. I like to call this my small crease brush with more of that Homemade shade on the tip of it, and I'm going to run that across my entire lower lash line. And then once I get to this outer part of my eye, I do like to drag the eyeshadow outwards and kind of connect it into my outer crease. I gotta say, I'm really liking the little bit of warmth in these shades too. I know I was saying for so long that I was kind of sick of warm eyeshadows, but honestly, ever since I've been like embracing my more natural skin tone, like fake tanning less, I've even been embracing like my natural hair color more, I've just kind of realized that like slightly warm tones do look good on my natural coloring. It's just kind of funny how our preferences can change sometimes, but also like with my blue eyes, these warm tones really do just complement my coloring feeling better. I'm also gonna grab a little bit of that first shade Beach Grass on this brush and just kind of use that to soften the lower edges of the lower lash line. I really just want these brown shades kind of just wrapped around my entire eye. Now I want to pop a shimmer on my lid. Of course, you could go with any shade you want, but I'm going to use a Spiced Peaches. And I'm not going to place any additional primer on my eye because I really want to see how this will look on its own. It looks like a really pretty like rose gold coppery shade. So I'm just going to place this on my entire eyelid. That actually looks really good, especially without my NYX glitter primer underneath it. I love how sparkly that looks. It feels like a very thin and kind of soft shimmer formula too. I did get a little bit of fallout with that shade, but it should be able to wipe away pretty easily. I just like to take a big fluffy powder brush and I'll just kind of wipe away. Then I always like to go back to my fluffy crease brush and I'm going to do a very soft blend around that shimmer in the crease just to give this a nice seamless blend. Now I'm going to take a nude liner on my waterline. I'm using Makeup Forever Boundless Bisque. This is kind of inspired by the recent Sabrina Carpenter look I did because I loved how bright and open my eyes look with the really light waterline. Now I'm going to take a tiny angled brush. This is a Sigma EO6 in the deepest shade from this column, which is Brickyard. And I'm going to stamp that along the base of my lower lash lines right below my waterline. So you can see how that just kind of slightly intensifies the lower lash line. So before and after with that Brickyard shade. And that's why I like using this really tiny brush for this step so you can be super precise. Okay, I'm loving how the lower lash line looks. Now I'm gonna pick up Dune on an E30 pencil brush. I wanna see how this looks as a little inner corner highlight. Okay, not my favorite because it's not super light. Like it's a little bit deeper than your typical kind of whitish highlighter shade, but that's totally fine. I have another highlight shade I love in my palette with Sigma, and that is the shade Bright. So I'm gonna grab that one. There we go. And then I'm also taking a little bit of that right under my brow. I'm almost done with the eyeshadow, but I think I want to soften the edges, specifically this edge of my eye just a little bit more. So I'm going to dip into Sand Dollar on a Sigma E33, and I'm just taking a little bit of this shade to kind of run along this edge right here and just soften it out. What I like about this palette too is that there's no white or black in it. You get kind of like an off-white and an off-black shade. Like Sand Dollar is not a pure white, and then even this deepest shade at Peppercorn, it's not a true black either. And I think that just kind of helps give more of like a softness to your looks without like the harsh contrast of a white or black. Quick before and after with that Sand Dollar shade, this just looks softer and more blended to me compared to this side. So let me just kind of even that out here. Okay, that looks good to me. I went ahead and popped on my mascara and lashes, and for my lashes, I'm wearing the Bright Lashes Daydream. Now this is a pretty bold and full fluffy lash, but I love it. But I did want to show you the little final step that I do that really helps my lashes just kind of blend into my eye look. So I'm gonna go back to that tiny angled brush I used earlier in the deepest shade at Peppercorn, and I'm gonna stamp that shadow across my entire top lash line, and that's really gonna help hide the lash band. And I do like to bring this darkest shadow all the way in towards my inner corner. Again, I love that this is not a true black shade. It is super dark, but it's not gonna be so harsh looking on the eyes. All right, so quick before and after with that step, I just definitely prefer how this looks with the liner kind of connected into my inner corner. And you can just see how blank it looks on this eye. So let's even that out. Okay, so now my lash line just looks a lot more seamless. And here's a final close-up of the eyeshadow look. Okay, here's what the full face is looking like so far. I already have my foundation, concealer, and like powder done, but I need to add some color to my face. So this bronzy, almost kind of like rose gold eye inspired me to grab out my bareMinerals blonzer in the shade Kiss It Pink. This is a product I really like to use in the spring and summer. I'm gonna take that on my blush brush. This is the Sigma F12, and I'm just going to apply that to my cheeks. Oh yeah, this goes perfectly with the eye look. I always forget how easy this formula is to work with too. It almost kind of feels like a baked product where it does have a bit of a sheen to it, but I love that it's not overly pigmented and you can really just like build it up to be as intense as you want it to be. I guess I'll just stick with bareMinerals, but I'm gonna take my highlighting blush in Rose Glow, and I like to place that right where my under eye kind of meets my blush just to make this blend a little bit more seamless. And I'm using the Sigma F03 highlighter brush to apply this. I know you can't see my forehead with my bangs, but I know I need to add some color there, so I'm going to take the Sigma Matte Bronzer in Light. And I like to use the same brush that I used for my blush, and I'm just going to apply that to the very top of my forehead, just for a bit of color. And this bronzer is really pigmented, so you only need a little bit of product. To finish off with lips, I have a super easy lip combo I've been doing the past few days. Starting with my Jones Road lip pencil in the shade Nudist. This is like the perfect My Lips But Better color for me. So I'm just going to line my lips with that. And then I got a little PR package from Lancome with their Juicy Tubes original lip glosses, and I have never tried this formula before, so I was like, I have to try one of these. So out of the few that they sent me, I kept the shade Hallucination, and it's kind of like the prettiest like nudish bronze shade. Let me show you. Okay, so this product is new to me, but I'm pretty sure it's been around for a really long time, right? So isn't this kind of like one of the OG like squeezy tube lip products? So I really like the applicator. I like how it looks on my lips. It doesn't do that sticky, goopy line thing. And I do really like the way it makes my lips look, but I don't really like the scent or the way this tastes on my mouth. And I think my issue is that it doesn't have any kind of scent, where I feel like we've been kind of spoiled by, you know, like the Summer Friday squeezy lip tubes, even the Tower 28 ones that I've really been loving. Like the Tower 28 ones smell absolutely delicious, and this one just tastes like makeup. You know what I mean? I think I just wish this had some kind of scent to it, but it's something I can get over. But that is the final makeup look, and I love how it turned out. It's just like another good bronzy look for summer. I would love to know your guys' thoughts on the Spectrum palette and whether or not you're gonna add it to your collection. But again, if you want to pick this up or anything else from Sigma, you can use my code ANGELABRIGHT to save. As always, all the products and brushes I used today will be linked down below for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.